Welcome back to Diaspora's Media. Thank you guys for coming back. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Costs you nothing, really helps us out. We have been talking about the accomplishments of each individual leader. We've been talking about the accomplishments of the Sahel. We've been asking, man, is the Sahel the only hope we have for Pan Africanism in Africa? Without further ado, today is the turn of Niger, right? Niger is led by Abdourahamane Tchiani, right? And he's the older general of the three, but he is also, you know, a very different guy. These are three different personalities, three different countries, right? Same vision, same goal. They're working together, but I think it's essential that we highlight each of their separate individual accomplishments, right? And we already did Assimi Goita. Shout out to Assimi Goita, and again, rest in peace to Sadio Kamara, right? And his family members as well. But today we're gonna go ahead on and dive into the accomplishments of Abdourahmane Tchiani. So here we are with our dashboard, right? By the way, a couple people told me to zoom in. I hope this is much easier to read. But again, we have Abdourahmane Tchiani. He took power in July of 2023. He at the age of 61, right? Up here, you can see some general facts. 9.8% GDP growth. Very high. I think it might be one of the highest in Africa, right? Renegotiated uranium. His term, 5 years, right? And so he's only been in term for 2023, but that was during his interim period. But again, please tell me what you guys think about this dashboard's breakdown. We have about 35 achievements we're going to go through today. Each of the sources that this comes from is going to be listed below. So please comment. Tell me what you guys think so far of this dashboard. So let's go ahead on and read these. So Niger's achievements, led by Abdourahmane Tchiani. In 2024, copper mining expansion, granted mining permits to Nigerian companies, I'm sorry. Granted small-scale mining permits to two Nigerian companies, Cominair SA and Comirex SA, to produce an average of 2,700 tons of metallic copper annually over 10 years, increasing the government's stake in the mining sector to 40%, right? Oil pipeline to Benin, developed oil export infrastructure, construction and development of the Niger-Benin oil pipeline for crude oil export, strengthening the country's oil sector and revenue generation capabilities. That was in 2023, 2024. Anti-corruption agenda, implemented anti-corruption measures. One of the three main objectives of Tchiani's internal policy: modernizing the army, promoting economic growth, and implementing anti-corruption agenda. Man, that is so huge. That is so huge. Trying to figure out how to deal with corruption in Africa is a major issue, right? And so seeing that this is something that is on his mind is super key. We see how the Sahel is suffering from terrorist organizations, most likely funded by proxy. And so that's something that is always a problem. But conquering conflict internally, conquering the issue of corruption internally has vexed Africa, especially countries like Kenya, right? Countries like Tanzania, countries like Nigeria. And so, in the spirit of transparency, shout out to Abdourahmane Tchiani, right? Let's go ahead on, put that right like that. So we have implementing an anti-corruption agenda. That was in 2023 through 2025. So up to now, right? Highest economic growth, 2024. So that was correct. Achieved 9.8 GDP growth. Niger achieved 9.8 economic growth, the highest in Africa, according to reports. This was driven by oil sector development and agricultural improvements. That's from Daily Post Nigeria. Uranium contract renegotiation. Renegotiated uranium contracts to increase state benefit from Niger's significant uranium reserves. Hopefully that also helps. That's Daily Post Nigeria 2024. Um, Mining code reform, increased state revenue from mining, adopted new mining codes, raising the state's share to 30%, ensuring Nigerians truly benefit from the exploitation of their wealth. Education, 298 schools connected to high-speed internet. Massive digital education connectivity project. This was in 2025. Launched the high-speed internet connectivity education project to connect 298 schools to high-speed internet within 5 months. Wow. Part of the Intelligent Village Initiative. Students and teachers now have access to digital learning tools and interactive educational materials, right? Man, that is 100% impressive. That is 100% impressive. I'm going to go ahead on and look into that a little bit more. New 298 schools, internet, Niger, right? That is absolute. Niger launched the project September 18, 2025 to connect 298 schools to high-speed internet within 5 months, man. Within 5 months. That is not only huge, this is absolutely amazing, right? This is absolutely amazing. Let's continue. 89 digital libraries across 8 regions. Building digital libraries nationwide, right? Building digital libraries nationwide, right? Part of a broader plan to establish 89 digital libraries across all 8 regions aimed at improving academic performance, training, and supporting teachers and familiarizing students with digital technologies. First digital library inaugurated in Kari Goru Primary School in Tilaberi region, man, 2025, 2026. Shout out to Niger, man. They are doing great work. New Ministry of Technical and Vocational Education created dedicated ministry for vocational training. Establish a new Ministry of Technical and Vocational Education and Training, reflecting the government's commitment to skills, development, and workforce training. That is from Pravada, Niger. That's in 2025. That's awesome. National Languages Promotion. Hausa elevated as national language. Under the Renaissance Charter, Hausa was declared the official national language. 9 additional local languages, including Zarma Songhai, Fula, and Kanuri, were granted official recognition, reflecting the commitment to linguistic diversity and accessibility in education. That is according to West Africa Wheatley and TRT Africa. New Ministry of Reconstruction, Culture, and Social Values. Created ministry focused on cultural revival. Established a new Ministry of Reconstruction, Culture, and Promotion of Social Values, signaling the government's commitment to cultural heritage and traditional values. That's 2025, according to Pravada Niger. So let's continue into foreign policy. ECOWAS crisis, navigated regional bloc threats. The coup triggered the Nigerian crisis with ECOWAS, threatening military intervention. Tchiani proposed a 3-year transition, but successfully navigated the crisis through diplomacy in the Liptako Goruma Charter, mutual defense agreement with Mali and Burkina Faso. So that is, according to Al Jazeera, that's in 2023. That was around the time they formulated the AES, if I'm not mistaken. ECOWAS withdrew from ECOWAS, as we know, right? And this was in addition to Burkina Faso and Mali. New strategic partnerships with Russia, Turkey, and China. Deepened partnership with Russia, Turkey, and China for security and economic assistance, marking a significant geopolitical shift from former colonial powers. Okay. I'm going to make sure to lock this in, but also please, and this is essential, I hope all of you know you can fact check me. So if there's something that I ended up populating that has more nuance or needs more, please fact check me, right? That's the best part about independent journalism and the best part about having comments, right? So let's continue. Alliance of the Sahel States. We are well aware of that from 2023, right? With Burkina Faso and Mali. National language, right? We just read exit from Francophone, right? Very similar to Mali, right? And The interesting part, and this is the same organization that they withdrew from. The interesting thing is that with Niger is that they also um, have been doing the same kind of initiatives that the other two have done. They do very many things in accord. It's not just for their military alliances. French embassy closure, right? Much like Mali, much like Mali. Orano uranium mine nationalization, revoked operating license of French nuclear company. The military junta revoked the operating license of French nuclear fuel producer Orano at one of the world's biggest uranium mines, the Imuraren mine. The mine returned to the state public domain, reclaiming national control over a key natural resource. That was in 2024. Nigeria pipeline sabotage accusations. So apparently they were Tchiani was accused Tchiani accused France and Nigeria of colluding with rebel groups to destabilize Niger and accused Nigeria of sabotaging the oil pipeline to Benin. I believe that. I believe that, right? Governance. So nationwide presidential tour. Tchiani toured all regions of the country. General Tchiani completed a weeks-long tour throughout Niger, visiting every corner from Tera on the border with Burkina Faso to Asamaka on the border with Algeria, and from Gaia to Difa. The detour focused on reassurance, security, vigilance, and discussing economy, health, security, and agricultural production with citizens. That's according to African News. National Conference convened 716 civil and military representatives, held a national conference from February 15th to 19th in Niamey, with 716 civil and military representatives, including former ministers, legal experts, military officers, academics, religious leaders, and civil society members to chart Niger's future. That, I love that, right? National conference is absolutely phenomenal. 2025. New Ministry of Population and Social Activism. Created new Ministry for Social Welfare. Established a new Ministry of Population, Social Activism, and National Solidarity, reflecting the government's commitment to social welfare and national cohesion. That is absolutely phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Again, the work these men are doing, the work these brothers are doing is phenomenal. We need to highlight them more. I hope this video is exactly what that is doing, right? I hope this video is doing that, right? I hope it's highlighting properly. Former president prosecution, prosecuting Mohamed Bazoum. The government is prosecuting former President Mohamed Bazoum on allegations of high treason and undermining national security. He and his wife have been detained since the coup. Human rights groups have expressed concern about due process. That's a good question, right? And that's something that we saw Assimi Goita also do. He captured many people and he let them go. The mercy that has been shown to not only what are considered traitors, but the mercy that has been shown is great. And sometimes that ends up biting us in the ass, so to speak. It may bite you, right? Excuse my language, but that has happened to Patrice Lumumba. That has happened to many other leaders in our countries. So this is not something that we should take lightly in the slightest. But let's continue, right? Let's continue. So in health, eradication of onchocerciasis. Onchocerciasis. I can't even pronounce that. In January 2025, according to the World Health Organization, Niger became the first African country and the fifth country worldwide to eradicate river blindness, right? A goal that it had been working on for several years, right? So shout out to Tchiani, man. You're doing big things across the board. You feel me? Shout out to Assimi Goita. Shout out to Abdourahamane Tchiani. Shout out to Ibrahim Traore for leading the way, not just staging coups, but leading the way, not just seizing power for their ego, but seizing power for their people. Intelligent Village Initiative, digital connectivity program for rural areas. Launched the Intelligent Village Initiative, a comprehensive digital connectivity program to strengthen infrastructure nationwide, including high-speed internet for schools and digital libraries. That was 2025. We heard a little bit about that up above. So now political, right? The coup, this was the coup that detained President Bazoum, right? And this was the again, analysts said Bazoum had planned to relieve Tchiani of his position and restructure the presidential guard. On July 28, Tchiani revealed himself as president of the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, right? Uh, that's interesting, right? 5-year presidential term. So he was sworn into a 5-year transitional period on March 2025, even though he seized power a little bit earlier than that. And I agree, these brothers should have the power. Politicians in Africa have again proven why democracy doesn't work. We were led by our warrior class, like we have discussed previously. So I am not against this. We have seen this work with Kagame. We have seen this work with someone like Gaddafi. We have seen this work with Museveni. We have seen this work, right? And rest in power to someone like King Shaka, right? Who is another example of a warrior. People like Dedan Kimathi, people like Musa Mariama, right, in Kenya. What would have the country been if someone like Dedan Kimathi was running it, right? He was a teacher before he became a soldier. He was a teacher afterwards, and then he continued to move that forward. So he has other skills. Political parties dissolved. I like that. But I must be honest and say I do not know, right, what a country looks like without democracy. I was raised in the age of democracy. I would like to see what it would look like without it, right? That was in 2025. This is according to BBC. By the way, the presidential term was according to Al Jazeera. That was also 2025. Promotion to Army General. Tchiani was promoted to the country's highest military rank of Army General, much like Goita that we discussed. That was in 2025. 3-year transitional proposal. After meeting with the ECOWAS delegation, Tchiani proposed a 3-year window for a transition to civilian rule, warning that any attack on the country would not be a walk in the park for those involved. That's what I'm talking about. 2023, according to Al Jazeera. So security, the anti-insurgency efforts, 2023 through 2026, ongoing operations against jihadist groups, again, much like the other 2 nations in the Sahel. Tchiani is under a difficult balancing act to restore order within his armed forces and combat the advantage of jihadist groups. He has opened a channel of communication with insurgents to alleviate pressure on the capital, Niamey. That's according to Africa Intelligence. Presidential Guard Command led elite Presidential Guard unit. So this is what he did prior to staging a coup. And this appears to be the most advantageous position to have if you are going to take power, right? So now let's get into the speculative things. The 2015 coup attempt link. Tchiani was linked to a 2015 coup attempt against the president, Mamadou Issoufou, but denied allegations in court in 2018 and was cleared of involvement. Some remains unverified, right? 2021 coup prevention, blocked coup attempt before Bazoum inauguration. In March 2021, Tchiani reportedly led the unit that blocked another attempted coup when a military unit tried to seize the presidential palace a few days before Bazoum was sworn in. Verification is also limited. But there are some amazing things that I'm hearing here, right? Specifically, I would say getting internet in these schools, modernizing some of these libraries. That is, man, that is powerful. And these gentlemen are now trying to preserve the culture. These men are trying to preserve their languages. They're trying to preserve African ideals. So again, fist up for our brothers, and please continue to support the content on this channel. Please continue to support this. This has been a quick rundown. This is not everything these brothers are doing either. That was a quick rundown of the things Abdourahamane Tchiani has been doing for his country. Thank you so much for your service, Assimi Goita. Thank you so much for your service, Abdourahamane Tchiani. And thank you for your service, Ibrahim Traore, who will be next. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this, and I will see you next time.